Alex, and some of these storms are going to just dump huge amounts of rain. There'll be a lot of people that are going to see water come up.
Right, and we want to warn you so that you know what you're up against before it happens, because as we know, these can happen very quickly, these flash floods, and we think we've got the setup that could lead to that. Over 15 trillion gallons of rain. That's how much we are expecting to fall as we get into the weekend. This is the reason why we've got the stalled frontal boundary, and along and south of that front is where we're going to get that best chance of heavy rain, also thunderstorms. Look at rainfall amounts to come. We're going to be measuring rainfall in inches, even in feet in some of these spots. Look at this, 5 to 8 inches, half a foot of rainfall possible for these areas in orange. So we've got a lot of rain coming in a short period of time, relatively speaking. Tomorrow, joining us now to talk a little bit about the landscape in these areas. You know, anytime you get heavy rain over terrain, that seems to really lead to those incredible flash flood videos that we see.
Yeah, the terrain really going to be playing a large role in this increasing flood threat moving into the weekend. We're looking at specifically the Ozark Mountains. These are in the northern part of Arkansas and looking up towards Missouri. And so, Alex, here, you got the elevations up near 2,700 feet, 1,700 feet in some cases. So a significant amount of elevation in these cases. Not going to take a whole lot to cause a lot of flooding, especially with the very moist soils in this area and those the rivers that are already at very high levels.
Right. So we've got that moisture flowing north, similar to the way we talk about, you know, snow. When we hit the mountains, that air produces heavy snow. What we saw over the Sierra Nevada, that bit of terrain lift is just going to enhance the rainfall.
Yep. And so as that air goes up and then all that rain comes right back down, and again over these same areas that already received a lot of rain. And Alex, the unique thing about this system is that this fetch of wind coming off the Gulf of Mexico not going to change moving from Friday night into Saturday. We have a slow moving system with multiple rounds of rains continuing over the same areas, and so there's those wind streaks coming in, and we're looking at very impressive rain totals moving into Sunday night, possibly even into Monday.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of real estate to be concerned about. Some of these areas already in flood stage because we've already seen heavy rainfall in the region.
Absolutely. So we're talking areas 8 to 12 inches of rain possible on top of the 1 to 2 that they've seen for the last couple days. Very moist areas in this region, and so unfortunately this storm is slow moving, and so it looks like flash flooding is a very real possibility in these areas this weekend.
We look at flash flood guidance. This gives us an idea of how much rainfall you need in 3 hours to cause flooding, and under 2 inches is all it's going to take in some of these areas where we think we very well could get it.
Absolutely.
All right, we want to talk
for that. Joining us now, Dr. Navarro here in the cave to talk about the flood threat that's coming for us here across the Mid-South. And one thing that we look at to forecast a lot of rain is something called PWAT.
PWAT. PWAT?
Exactly, PWAT. Precipitable water, a term that maybe a lot of people aren't familiar with. What exactly is it? How do we use it to forecast heavy rain?
So precipitable water is just the scientific term for the available moisture that's in the atmosphere. We often talk about a column of the atmosphere, so just a specific amount of area. And so now precipitable water is if we took all of the water, the vapor that's present in the sky, and rained it all out, it's how much water would accumulate on the ground.
That gives us some guidance as to light rain, medium rain, heavy rain, right?
Yeah, and we take a look at this because, you know, if your PWAT value is 1.83 inches, you would expect to see, if you rained it all out, 1.83 inches on the ground. And if that came down in a couple hours, that's a lot of rain.
Tons.
A lot of rain, especially when we're talking about areas that have already received inches of rain this week. So we're talking about record values coming off the Gulf of Mexico.
And we can model this in the atmosphere.
Yes. We can look at our models and take a look at where that stream of water is actually coming from. And Mike, this is what's really cool. That moisture that's coming in this weekend, all the way down from the Caribbean, maybe even as far back as the Atlantic, over the Caribbean, through the Gulf of Mexico, onto land. And you also have a little bit of flow coming off the Pacific. So you have 2 areas of moisture coming in and converging into
It's not a double whammy, a triple whammy, it's a quadruple whammy for us, and that's why we're so concerned about the Mississippi River Valley.
Absolutely. There are many reasons that we're concerned. There's terrain that's coming into play, that stalled boundary that's coming into play, but a lot of moisture, Alex, really the big trigger for this event.
Right, and so you've set up an explainer where I get to get get my hands really into it.
Yeah, you do it. You do so well, Alex.
Thank you. Thank you. So
Yes.
basically, this cloth is just a representation of the atmosphere.
Yeah, so it's blue, like the sky. So imagine we're going to saturate the atmosphere now. So Alex is just dipping this washcloth into a pool of water to get it nice and saturated. So there's that moisture coming off the Gulf of Mexico.
All right.
And now,
I feel good.
Yeah, good. You know, and it's nice and saturated. So now all she's going to do is pull it out and just wring it out. And so now this is what these triggers in the atmosphere, those mountains, that stalled front, all of those thunderstorms, wringing out that water and accumulating down the ground. That's the precipitable water. That's that idea that we're talking about.
So we look at something like this. This is the average precipitable water.
This is the average that we would expect for April 29th in these areas. This is the forecast.
Right.
This is nearly double the amount of water that we typically receive. And on top, this is the record on top of that. So we're not only well above average, we're 0.2 of an inch above the record. And so this just going to show you, this is a lot of moisture. Again, record-breaking moisture, as you can see, a lot of water available to rain out. And unfortunately, this is going to be a slow-moving system, so we could see multiple rounds of storms.
And I didn't walk away from you, but off the charts.
Good to have you here. I mean, I think it just, against all odds.
You can imagine. Okay, so we saw some incredible pictures. You're there, though. Was there anything you saw in relation to that snow that just made you go, holy cow?
To shovel to get into work, you had to shovel when you got to work. Ski lifts buried. I mean, seriously, like the lifts and the lifts tower buried. There's about a 30 to completely buried in snow, and the poor lifties.
Favorite part of winter weather on a mountain is the little chair that swings and you feel like you're so far off the ground. The fact that you have to dig that out of the snow.
And it's still a moderate avalanche level right now, so you start to melt off. That's what's going to be insane, because we really haven't seen the melt off. Tahoe is at its highest level ever. There's one tributary out called the Truckee River, and once that starts to this year.
Yeah.
And you think about the springtime, I mean, it's this time of change, and so you get this freeze-thaw at times, you start to get the warmer weather, and things just start to slough off the mountain.
Yep. Oh, it's moving for sure. But it's beautiful. You're the meteorologist. So I'm the
groundwater has barely budged, unfortunately. That's why the restrictions are still there for some of the farms and the water use, because the groundwater is so important, and it hasn't refilled at the same pace.
Absolutely. For being a ski bum, we're also envious of what you do. Time, right? Yeah. You're not going anywhere.
Nope.
And if you've got questions for Coop, welcome back into Weather Underground. We're here with Coop in the flesh. That you have so much snow on the ground that wildflowers aren't even going to be an issue for you guys until like late July.
Most likely, yeah.
So now, Coop, you were talking about digging out the ski lifts from this amount of snow. And for us scientists here, we were talking about this winter really defied expectations.
Yes.
You know, the amount of water and snowfall that you received. Have you ever had to do that before?
Now, Coop, speaking of shoveling, we have a question for you from Twitter.
You said a name, and I was with her morning, noon, and night in January and February. So
Out. Let's talk. The window was so interesting in the that El Nino was going to save California. Nothing happened, and then came this year. We went to a La Nina. We had no expectations, and it went bonkers.
You guys have been at Heavenly and Kirkwood for a very long time.
Yeah.
What?
Kind of a mixed bag, and you're just waiting for that day. But there were some good days.
Yeah.
I just got to tell you.
This year, certainly.
So how late do you think people will be skiing this year?
You know, so we're closing down 16th, North Star on the 20th. Up all of our summer experiences at Heavenly. We'll open up Epic Discovery, which is just a great experience. Mountain coasters, hiking, ropes courses.
You know, I bet. What about the people that you had out to ski? Were you seeing crazy numbers after, you know, some lackluster
snow, but it was hit or miss too. It was kind of hard to get there at times. The road,
we're like, what's the
there was a point where our color bars on our maps weren't high enough to measure.
Kevin Cooper, we've loved you. Thank you. Great to have you here.
Love it. Hey, and coming up, all of us here at Weather Underground, thanks for watching.
Have a great night.